So what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back, and I am here with NFL Week. Thomas Morstead, Jay Cutler, Johnny Hecker. This is NFL Week 6 predictions. Now, of course, there's going to be 4 teams that I'm not going to be talking about this week, and that is the Chargers, Raiders, Seahawks, and Saints, all on the bye. Last week, I did okay. I think I was like a little bit above 50%. Could do better. But anyways, and per usual, if you just want to see me predict a certain matchup, timestamps are in the description below, so make sure you click on that matchup that you want to see. And anyways, I got a lot of matchups to get into, so without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright, so now you're starting off with our very first matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears. Starting off with the Panthers, I have really been sleeping on you guys lately. Like, I don't expect much out of you, but you're doing better than I thought. Teddy Bridgewater, I told y'all he's got potential. And he flashed at 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. No Christian McCaffrey, no problem, as Mike Davis ran for 89 yards, no touchdowns, but he did follow up with 60 receiving yards and a touchdown. Very good. Robbie Anderson is clearly Teddy's favorite target with 8 receptions for 112 yards. DJ Moore followed up with 93 receiving yards and a touchdown. That was pretty much it. You know, your defense limited the Falcons, which is good because, you know, their offense is pretty good. But no, that's pretty much it for you guys. And then the Bears, I don't know if you're legit or not, but I just need to see a little bit more of a sample size. You're 4-1, but a lot of questions behind it. You know, Nick Foles played decently, had a rough start, but finished off nicely as he threw for 243 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. David Montgomery didn't really do much on the rushing game, had 10 carries for 29 yards, but did get a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your top receiver was Allen Robinson with 90 yards, Cordell Patterson 38, Jimmy Graham had 33 receiving yards and a touchdown. I mean, your defense did a decent job against the Buccaneers. I mean, you did stop them on the final drive because Tom Brady has Alzheimer's thinking on the 4th down. That was 3rd down. So he's thinking like, wait, we got one more down. No, you don't. So I really don't know what to think of this. You know, Panthers are favored to win this one. You know what? I'm going to say they win it. I've been sleeping on the Panthers way too much. About time I start realizing their potential. So Panthers win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Indianapolis Colts. Starting off with the Bengals, like you came up against the Ravens. No way in hell you were winning that game. Joe Burrow just was left out to die. Threw for 183 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick, and got sacked 7 times. Dude deserves hazard pay for that game. Joe Mixon, you know, after his breakout week against the Jaguars, didn't do much, only had 59 yards. T. Higgins is definitely Joe's favorite receiver, as he had 62 receiving yards. Tyler Boyd had 42 yards, Mixon had 35, and that was pretty much it. Your defense falling apart to the Ravens, I get it. Like, I'm not that shocked, but you guys just didn't bother to show up, but I didn't expect much. And then the Colts, you know, Phillip Rivers is definitely holding you back of your full potential as he threw for 243 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. One of them went for a pick 6. In terms of rushing, you guys only rushed the ball 18 times. I mean, Jonathan Taylor had 57 yards and a touchdown, but seriously, the rushing game is what's going to win it for you with Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines. Like, if Phillip Rivers can just, like, throw every now and then, it's going to help, but, like, you guys need to develop more of a ground game. T.Y. Hilton led in receiving with 6 receptions for 69 yards, has 69. Malik Johnson had 53 yards. Alex Dunlin, 34 yards. Trey Burton, 33. And that was pretty much it. Nothing else really. You know, your defense, like I said, it was one of the better units. Definitely struggled against the Browns, but, you know, their offense is definitely showing that it's got the potential. Colts are favored by 8 to win this one, and I'm going to say the Bengals pull off an upset in this one. I'm going to say Bengals win this game. And now you have our very next matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. Oh, dear God, this matchup is going to be absolutely terrible. Like, 2 terrible defenses going up against each other. It's just not going to be fun. Anyways, Gardner Minshew last week against the Texans. I didn't expect much out of you. And nothing really happened for you guys. I mean, Gardner Minshew threw for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. I mean, he played decently, but you guys did fumble the ball twice, and that was ultimately the killing factor. James Robinson ran for only 48 yards, and he was your leader. Chenault Jr. only had 79 receiving yards. Chris Conley had 58. Chris Thompson with 35, and yeah, honestly, like, the receiving game was definitely all around the board, but not enough was done. I mean, your defense fell apart to the Texans, even though Watson threw 2 picks. I mean, he is under a new head coach now. I don't remember his name, but, you know, nothing else to say. And the Lions, you were on your bye week last week, but your last matchup you came off a 35-29 loss against my boys and the Saints. Starting off, Matt Stafford in that game threw for 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And the pick was basically the killing point, and you just never really fully recovered. Your offense just went completely stale after putting up 14 points. Sure, it produced a little bit, but the Saints were just playing defense in garbage time. Not much could be done. Adrian Peterson ran for 36 yards and a touchdown, and that was pretty much it. In terms of receiving, your key guy was Kenny Golladay. Like, he's back, and if he's healthy, he's amazing. Had 4 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. Danny Amendola had 57 yards. Jesse James, 31 yards. That was pretty much it. He was not getting the ball out to anyone else. Just could not do it. Your defense fell apart to the Saints. I mean, this was the game where Drew Brees was consistently throwing for more than 10 yards. So, yeah, like, narratives were broken. So, Lions are favored to win by 3 in this match. I'm going to say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. Starting off with the Falcons, delete the franchise. Like, you guys have just been nothing but an embarrassment. Now you're off to an 0-5 start. Matt Ryan threw for 226 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He was absolutely awful. The only sense of life that you had in the game was from Todd Gurley, as he had 14 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown. Actually, I take that back. The only other form of life was Calvin Ridley, as he had 8 receptions for 136 yards. Gurley had 29 yards. Other than that, like, Matt Ryan wasn't finding anyone else. So, in terms of defense, you fell apart to the Panthers, and, you know, they're missing some of their, and they're missing McCaffrey. So if you're falling apart to that, there's some issues. But, you know, Dan Quinn finally got fired. Happened a few years too late, but you know, you got nowhere to go from up here, but I'm hearing that Arthur Blank is saying that they could move on from Matt Ryan this season. And honestly, that's not the greatest decision. And then the Vikings, you know, during your Sunday night football game against the Seahawks, you had them in check. You know, it was 4th and inches, and all you needed was a first down to end the game. I probably would have kicked the field goal, but the play call was terrible, and then the Seahawks drove down the field and won the game. You blew it. Mike Zimmer is officially now, the seat's getting hotter for him. Anyways, Kirk Cousins threw for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. You know, he's throwing picks, but, you know, like, he did well. Like, everyone's going to blame Kirk Cousins for that. It was not his fault. Anyways, Andre Mattinson, you know, the running back, he replaced Dalvin Cook, had 20 carries for 112 yards. Dalvin Cook, for the time that he was in the game, had 65 yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, Adam Thielen is literally carrying the offense in terms of receiving, as he had 80 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson only put up 23 yards in that game. And honestly, that was it. Your defense in the first half was amazing, completely shut out the Seahawks, but the second half you fell apart to Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Currently, the Vikings are favored by 4 to win, but you know what? I'm going to say the Falcons win their very first match of the season. Falcons win this one, going 1-5. And now you have our very next match between the Washington football team and the New York Giants. Oh, God, another horrible match to predict. So, the narrative of the Washington football team was that Alex Smith made his return. And for what he didn't do much. He had 9 passes for 37 yards. Did get sacked 6 times, though, so I feel for him. Just under a shit O-line, just under a terrible organization. Antonio Gibson ran for 27 yards. In terms of receiving, your leader was J.D. McKissick with 46 yards. Terry McLaurin with 26. Antonio Gibson with 24. And that was pretty much it. Your defense, you fell apart to the Rams. But, you know, they're making some noise. They're better than what they were last year. So I'm impressed. Even though their logo is just like the one thing that's gotten worse. Anyways, and then the Giants, you blew a key opportunity. You got off to an early lead against the Cowboys. And then you blew it. Daniel Jones, of course, fumbled again. Lost fumble that went for a touchdown. He threw for 222 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Devontae Freeman ran for 60 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. In terms of receiving, Darius Slayton was the big man. 8 receptions for 129 yards. Golden Tate with 42 yards. But honestly, you blew it. Like, Dak Prescott got stretchered off the field. Like, he was taken out. Ankle injury, he's done for the season, you know. Andy Dalton came in and he just completely torched you guys. I mean, it was really Michael Gallup that did all the damage in the end. So honestly, Giants are a favorite to win this one by 3. I'm just going to say, like, the Giants, like, both teams suck, but the Giants are slightly better. So I'm going to say Giants win, cover the spread, and get their first win. And now you have our very next match between the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. Starting out with the Ravens, you faced the Bengals. Lamar Jackson was injured. Didn't matter. You still kicked their ass. Lamar Jackson threw for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. But, of course, like, there was a possibility of an ankle injury. So, of course, he didn't really do much, and he only had 3 rushing yards, so, like, he didn't have to do much, and you won the game anyways. Whoop-de-doo. Mark Ingram ran for 57 yards. In terms of receiving, your leader was Hollywood Brown with 6 receptions for 77 yards. Mark Andrews had 56 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. In terms of your defense, you stopped the Bengals. Like, you know, Joe Burrow had hope coming into this match, and you just completely smothered that. So, not much else I could say. Anyways, and then the Eagles, I'm just so disappointed in you this season. I just expected way more out of you, and I really should have thought about reality. Like, you're injured to hell and back. Carson Wentz threw for 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. He could be honestly he could be out of Philly soon, but who knows? Miles Sanders then had 11 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. In terms of receiving, Tracy Fulgham, who the hell is he? Well, he led receiving with 10 receptions, 152 yards and a touchdown. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside made a boneheaded move, which cost them getting some points at the end of the first half, as he had 37 yards. Greg Ward with 26, and that was pretty much it. Your defense, you fell apart. You fell apart to Chase Claypool as he had 4 touchdowns. He just completely torched you guys all game long. Anyways, Ravens are favored by 9.5 to win this one. I'm just going to say straight up, they win. But don't cover this round. I'm going to say Philly keeps this one close for reasons, but actually, no, because with Baltimore's defense, they're just going to shut them out. So, Ravens win and cover this. And now you have our very next match between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting off with the Browns, are you legit? Maybe. Now, last year so far proving that Freddie Kitchens was the problem and that Kevin Stefanski was a good hire. Anyways, Baker Mayfield threw for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks, but those 2 picks came late. Still, though, could have been better, but, you know, Baker Mayfield, like, if he does what he needs to do, you guys are set. Anyways, Kareem Hunt ran for 72 yards, and that was pretty much it. In terms of receiving, your leading receivers were Jarvis Landry with 88 yards, Odell Beckham Jr. with 58, Austin Hooper with 57. The only touchdowns on receiving went to Rashard Higgins and Kareem Hunt. Other than that, you know, your defense, you know, you picked off Rivers 2 times, went for a pick 6, but you did have a special teams collapse, as you did allow Rodgers to get a kickoff return for a touchdown, which was a 101-yard return. So that was pretty big, but still came out with a victory. And then the Steelers, you know, last week you played the Eagles, and, you know, your defense definitely did not show that it was as good as it was, but you did enough. Anyways, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. In terms of rushing, this one was a mix between McLeod, James Conner, and Benny Snell, as they combined for about 100 rushing yards. And Chase Claypool had 3 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown, but he followed up with 7 receptions, 110 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Canadian man just gets it done. Eric Ebron had 43 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster had 28. And that was pretty much it. But like I said, your defense definitely did fall apart to Philly's receiving core, which is just putrid shit. But you know what? You did enough. Anyways, Steelers are favored by 3.5 to win this one. But you know what? I'm going to say it. The Browns are legit. For the first time in a while, I'm going to say they win and go 5-1. And now you have our very next match between the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Starting out with the Titans, look, after all the COVID cases coming up against the Tuesday night football game against Buffalo, I had doubts about you, but you smothered that as you won 42-16. You didn't even make it close. Ryan Tannehill threw for 195 yards and 3 touchdowns, did what he needed to do. He also ran for 42 yards and a touchdown, which was also great. Derrick Henry had 19 carries for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns, and a mean stiff arm on Josh Norman as he just sent him flying. Josh Norman, if I were you, just retire. Like, you're never going to live this down. Anyways, A.J. Brown was your leading receiver with 7 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. And Jonnu Smith, like I said, he's kind of like a boomer bust guy. He had 40 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. That was pretty much it. Your defense did a great job shutting down Buffalo. You know, Josh Allen definitely looked more like a rookie as Malcolm Butler picked him off twice. And that was pretty much it. And then the Texans, like, you faced the Jaguars. Not that impressed that you won. Deshaun Watson threw for 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. So the 2 picks are concerning, but you got your first win of the season, so all right, I guess. David Johnson, you know, they did say, you know, they're going to focus on the run a little bit more. He did run for 96 yards, No touchdowns, though. And in terms of receiving, your leader was Brandon Cooks, proving he was a good pickup with 8 receptions for 161 yards and a touchdown, although that contract is definitely going to hold you down. Cap hell's coming your way. Will Fuller, well, as he's still healthy, he's still pretty good with 58 receiving yards and a touchdown. Darren Fells had 57 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. Your defense, just caused some key turnovers, and you just capitalized off that, so well done to you guys. Anyways, Tennessee is favored by 3.5 to win this one. I'm going to say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our final 1 o'clock matchup between the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos. Now, these two were supposed to play each other last week, but with the ridiculous amount of COVID tests that came back positive, it got pushed back. So anyways, starting out with the Patriots, back in week 4, they played a Monday Night Football game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and it did not go well for you. Yes, your defense did shut down the Chiefs in the first half, but just didn't do anything from there. Anyways, your starting quarterback was Brian Hoyer. He threw for 130 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. It was so bad that they replaced him with Jarrett Stidham, who threw for 60 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. So, yeah, both guys were pretty bad. Harris was the only the only good thing that happened in that game, as he had 100 rushing yards. Rex Burkhead had 49. Bird is definitely becoming a bigger target for them, as he had 80 receiving yards. But like I said, the defense did well at the beginning, but you can only hold the Chiefs down for so long. And then the Broncos, you played a Thursday Night Football game against the Jets, and it was just not that good. Brian Ripon threw for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. But the good news is for you that Drew Lock may be coming back this week. Who knows? And then in terms of rushing, your lead rusher was Melvin Gordon with 23 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. But right now he actually just got arrested for speeding and a DUI, so that's not that good. In terms of receiving, Tim Patrick led with 6 receptions for 113 yards, followed up by Jerry Jeudy for 2 receptions and 61 yards and a touchdown. Your defense struggled against Sam Darnold, but he's not the worst quarterback. He's decent, but he's just in an inept franchise in the New York Jets. Anyways, currently the Patriots, they are favored by 8 to win this game, and because I don't know if Drew Lock's coming back, I'm going to say the Patriots win, but don't cover the spread. Also, Cam Newton's coming back, so yeah, they win, but don't cover. And now you have our very first 4 o'clock matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. Starting out with the Dolphins, you shocked me last week. Going into San Francisco, I didn't have that great expectations for you, but you pulled out a 43-17 victory over them. Now, your offense did very well, but that's against a banged-up 49ers secondary. But you know what? I'm going to give you credit where credit's due. Ryan Fitzpatrick, going on his little streak where he's good, but wait until he gets inconsistent, as he threw for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Very good gameplay by him. In terms of rushing, it was led by Myles Gaskin. He had 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your leaders were Preston Williams, who had 106 yards and a touchdown, Mike Gesicki with 91 yards, and Devontae Parker with 50 yards. And everyone else was kind of split in terms of receiving. But I got to give credit to that defense, because, Jimmy Garoppolo came back, and you forced him to get benched. He had 77 yards and 2 picks. You made the 49ers bench him in favor of C.J. Beathard. That's pretty good to me. And then the New York Jets, I didn't expect anything against the Arizona Cardinals, and I was right, because you had to start Joe Flacco. Anyways, he threw for 195 yards and a touchdown, but it's the Cardinals. Their defense isn't that great. So yeah, in terms of rushing, Le'Veon Bell ran for 60 yards, and he just got cut by the Jets. So that's good. But anyways, in terms of receiving, your lead guy was Jamison Crowder, as he had 116 receiving yards and a touchdown. And that's pretty much it. He basically carried the whole Jets. And in terms of defense, he fell apart to the Cardinals, but they got a pretty good offense, so I'm not going to really fault you for falling apart to them. Anyways, Dolphins are favored by 9 to win this one, and yeah, I don't even know if Darnold's coming back, but I'm going to say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. This is a matchup that we never got that often, but now that Brady's in the NFC, it's something that we're going to see more of. Anyway, starting out with the Packers, you just made it your job just to completely smother the Falcons in Week 4 because you were on your bye in Week 5, but a good 4-0 start. You guys are currently, I think, second best in the NFC, because best is the Seahawks. Anyways, but though Aaron Rodgers is playing like he played in 2011, as he had 327 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He hasn't thrown a pick all season, so that's pretty good. In terms of rushing, Aaron Jones led it with 71 yards. In terms of receiving, you got no Devontae Adams, but Robert Tonyan, your tight end, had 6 receptions for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, your backup running back, had 95 yards. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 45 yards, and Aaron Jones had 40 receiving yards and a touchdown. And you're doing this all without Devontae Adams. Your defense did a good job against the Falcons. You did allow 16 points, but otherwise still pretty good. And then the Buccaneers, this is a match you had to win against the Bears, and you didn't. Tom Brady threw for 253 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, and proving that he is old, has Alzheimer's, thinking he was 3rd down on the 4th down. But anyways, what else could you do? In terms of rushing, Ronald Jones was the leader of the pack, as he had 106 rushing yards, and that was he was the only one who actually rushed. Brady had 3 rushes, but for no yards. In terms of receiving, Johnson led with 61 yards. Rob Gronkowski finally getting a little bit more action, but he only had 3 receptions for 52 yards. And Mike Evans, this year, he had 5 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown, but he's literally getting everything in the end zone. Majority of his passes just are on the 5 when they just throw him in the end zone. In terms of receiving, when he's not in the end zone, just on the field, just not there. And your defense, fell apart to the Bears, but maybe Foles could be the answer. Anyways, Packers are favored by 1 to win this match, and I'm going to say they win, and I'm going to say they win by 14. Aaron Rodgers is playing on another level, and he's just going to destroy the Bucs. And now you have our Sunday night football match between the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. Starting out with the 49ers, you were such a disappointment last week. You were getting Jimmy Garoppolo back. I said Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't the problem. Holy shit, he was the problem. 77 yards, under 50% completion percentage, and 2 interceptions. That was in one half. So bad that the 49ers benched him in favor of C.J. Beathard, as he had 94 yards and a touchdown. I think they're going to give it back to Garoppolo, but you got to work on that. In terms of rushing, Raheem Mostert came back and he had 90 yards, but the only rushing touchdown you got was from Kyle Juszczyk, that's still the best fullback in the league, even though the fullback's kind of a dead position. In terms of receiving, Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle led it each with 44 receiving yards. Kittle not as dangerous as he was against the Eagles, but still. The only one with a touchdown was Kendrick Bourne, as he had 30 yards and a touchdown. In terms of your defense, you fell apart to the Dolphins, but right now Fitzpatrick is in that stretch where he's going to be playing good football, but it's not going to last for him. But anyways, defense just fell apart. And then the Rams, you got to face off against the football team. Alex Smith came back, but that didn't matter. So Jared Goff threw for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. The Rams are back, I hope. No, I don't. I don't like them. In terms of rushing, Cam Akers led with 61 yards, and Darrell Henderson followed up with 38 yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your leader was Gerald Everett with 90 receiving yards. Robert Woods had 71 and a touchdown. Kupp had 66. That was pretty much it. Your defense, you sacked the Washington football team 8 times. Just allowed them to only get about 150 yards of offense. So, good job, but it's the football team. I need to see you beat someone better. And right now the Rams are favored by 3 to 1. But you know what? I'm going to say this straight up. Even though the 49ers are banged up, I'm going to say that Jimmy Garoppolo plays well and will pull off the upset of the week. I'm going to say that the 49ers win this one. And now you have our very first Monday Night Football matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Starting out with the Chiefs, everyone thought you were invincible, but what you got was a reality check from the Raiders as you lost them 40-32. Starting out with Patrick Mahomes, did well, threw for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, but did get picked off once, and the pick was ultimately the turning point of the game, trying to make that comeback, but the Raiders picked that off and just fueled off it. Anyways, Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 40 yards. Patrick Mahomes had 21 and Tyreek Hill had 15. Both had touchdowns. But you did pick up Le'Veon Bell in free agency after the Jets dropped him. How much is he going to add? Well, I'm going to say he's going to be the number 2. In terms of receiving, Travis Kelce led in that. 8 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown, followed by Tyreek Hill with 78 yards, Mecole Hardman with 50. Sammy Watkins did have 24 receiving yards and a touchdown, but he did go out with an injury. Your defense just completely fell apart, was inexistent against the Raiders, because you gave up 40 points to them, come on. And then the Bills, you might have been the biggest disappointment last week. You're facing off against the Titans. They haven't had that much time to train. They've had so much time off. Maybe that rest was helpful, But you guys reverted back to, like, Josh Allen reverted back to rookie form. 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks, although one pick was on him. The other was on Andre Roberts, as he needed to catch the ball. On terms of rushing, Singletary was absolutely limited, only to 25 yards. TJ Yeldon was better, as he had 52 yards. On terms of receiving, Stephon Diggs is still the number one guy. 10 receptions for 106 yards. Greg Davis had 58 yards. Cole Beasley with 53. Yeldon had one of the touchdowns, and honestly, that was pretty much it. Your defense just was completely inexistent, just completely fell apart to the Titans, and right now, of course, the Chiefs are favored to win this one, and I will say they win, but don't cover the spread. I'm going to say they win on a last-second field goal by Harrison Butker. And now you have our final matchup, which is the second Monday Night Football matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. Starting out with the Cardinals, look, you had 2 tough losses, and then you have to face the Jets. Whoop-de-doo, you beat them. But what? But seriously. Anyways, Kyler Murray was super strong at the beginning of the year, kind of fell off, but he did well. 380 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He is throwing more picks, which is definitely concerning. On terms of rushing, it was kind of split between Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds, and Kyler Murray. Drake had 60 yards, Edmonds had 36 yards, and Murray had 31 yards. Each of them did have a touchdown. But in terms of receiving, DeAndre Hopkins was the top guy. 6 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown. Christian Kirk had 78 yards, and Chase Edmonds had 56 yards. Well, your defense, you faced Joe Flacco. Whoop-de-doo. Didn't do much. Like, seriously. Like, you did the bare minimum on defense win, even though you gave up 10 points. But, yeah, no. Ended up with a win in the end. And then the Cowboys, you guys are in trouble. Dak Prescott is out for the season with an ankle injury. He threw for 166 yards and no touchdowns and a pick, but he did have a receiving touchdown on their wide receiver special. In terms of rushing, Ezekiel Elliott carried the load with 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Almost forgot to talk about Andy Dalton. In his first appearance, he did okay. Went 9 for 11, had 111 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, but was completely carried by Michael Gallup on the final drive, as he had 73 yards and 2 amazing catches that put them in field goal range. On terms of receiving as well, CeeDee Lamb led with 8 receptions, 124 yards. That was pretty much it. Your defense fell apart to the Giants. Like, the beginning was bad, and then you kind of let them claw back at you, but in the end, you got the victory, so, like, you won. It's like Avengers. It's just, did you win? Yes. What did it cost? Dak Prescott. He might not even play for the Cowboys again, although I think he will be back next season. Anyways, the Cardinals are favored by 1 to win this one, and I'm going to say they win and cover. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to see all of my other prediction videos, links to that will be in the description below. If you want to see all my other recaps, all links to that will be in the description below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, comment down below who you got winning this week, like who's your upset of the week, who's lock of the week, and that's pretty much it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok @StudentSavage. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Who Dat Nation is